Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Alicia McKeeby with the innovation team at Korda AI. I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar, Chatbot Must-Haves for Banking, Smart Strategies to Make the Conversational AI Shift. Throughout the webinar, as you have questions, please submit them using the Q&A window. At the end of the presentation, we'll field as many questions as time allows, or simply follow up after. If you're unable to see the Q&A window, please hover over the floating WebEx toolbar to gain access. We'll also send a copy of today's presentation to you tomorrow. Presenting today is Tara Benyuski, Korda AI's Director of Innovation and Solutions. Tara works with enterprises to identify practical application of modern, intelligent conversational technology to elevate every function, including customer service, sales, HR, ITSM, supply chain, and more. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tara.
Thank you, Alicia. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to spend time with you today. As Alicia mentioned, I'm Tara Benyuski, Director of Innovation and Solutions for Korda AI, and I'd like to extend a thank you to all of you for joining the event live today. Today's topic is personally one of my favorites, being an early adopter of digital banking and an avid fan of naturally just finding ways to do things faster, easier, and better. I am as active a participant in this conversation as I am in helping folks like yourselves consume the opportunity extended by AI, or artificial intelligence, machine learning, and chatbots. For today's webinar, we will unpack a little bit on how we arrived here, the opportunity at hand, share some general use cases, as well as how a few of our customers have identified specific use cases for their FIs, and even touch on some things to sidestep, anticipating that this information helps as you make plans for your organization. And as Alicia mentioned, towards the end, we'll open the floor for questions or comments. And with that, let's jump in. By way of brief introduction, for those of you just getting to know us, Korda AI has built an enterprise-class bots development platform for businesses to build and deploy at scale, highly intelligent chatbots for the thousands of customer and employee-facing use cases that can have major impact on people and their businesses. We also partner with the best for our customers to fully maximize the opportunity at hand, including over 25 systems integrators and integrated software providers such as SAP Workplace by Facebook, Capgemini, Finicity, and more. Really, since inception, our mission has been the same: lead the way to the conversational AI-first era and make digital feel simpler and more human. Simply put, the conversational AI era can be defined as a time in which people, companies, systems, and even smart internet-enabled machines can interact with each other in exactly the same way people talk to friends and colleagues, through a conversation. And unlike static digital channels today, with intelligence layered into that conversational interface, systems can then become smart and adapt and respond to the individual's needs or behaviors. They can execute tasks for or independently of people, and they can even communicate with other systems and machines in ways that they previously couldn't. And there's a very good reason for this shift to happen, something that we all experience in our daily lives. And that's complexity. A statement that so perfectly articulates the challenge associated with complexity was shared by an SAP executive who said, "Complexity is the most intractable issue of our time, an epidemic of wide-ranging proportions affecting our lives, our work, and even our health, and costing the largest 200 global companies alone over $237 billion per year." Now put each of yourselves in that scenario. Aside from just banking, think through as a consumer that interacts with businesses, whether that's for shopping, medical needs, travel booking, and so forth. How much time in a week do you spend trying to get to the source of information, chasing it down, following up when details change, and communicating details? Even with digital and some self-serve options available, everyday life has become complex. It's true in all areas, including banking. Prior to Korda AI, I worked for one of the large global fintech providers, really helping FIs deploy technology within their organizations to remain competitive, to attract and convert more business, and become more efficient to retain more revenue. And across all areas, from core to mobile to payments, lending, the themes are similar. One, you can't go too long or too far without hearing that banks must break free of the burdens holding them back and innovate to survive. To appeal to today's modern consumers, businesses must be innovative. Consider just how many articles, webinars, conferences are just shaped around this very unique topic, and let alone just for millennials. Yet, in many ways, that reality, that innovation is possible, is just not always feasible, especially when back office must-haves like cybersecurity or adherence to changing regulations consume every single available man-hour and resource. And it becomes even more challenging when disparate systems and tools don't integrate and data sources are broken. Even determining which area to focus on can be challenging in and of itself. Meanwhile, innovation is happening. The alternative players, not constrained by the same challenges, can attain that agility needed to deliver similar services, along with a superior experience that modern customers do expect. While each has mastered a key area of delivery, as a sum total of all players, every area of the traditional bank has become vulnerable. And moreover, the current environment makes it quite easy for customers to jump ship. According to a 2015 Accenture study, Accenture states that 80% of customers define their relationship with their banking provider as transactional. I don't have to tell you that transactional relationships are pretty bad news. According to an article by the financial brand, when technology replaces people, transactions simply become a commodity, which in the consumer's mind can easily be purchased elsewhere. And banking providers start to blur together as they become functionally equivalent and interchangeable. As we all know, growth in retail banking has always depended on developing relationships through individualized and attentive service. Yet, if you look at digital has really compromised that model largely with one-size-fits-all, very non-user-centric and disconnected approaches. And this has, resulted in quite a few strains on both the bank and customer relationship. So let's just take a look into the landscape for a moment to better understand why now. Why now is the ideal time to call AI, machine learning, and chatbots off the bench. As we know, this technology is not new. In fact, it's been around for decades. However, the groundwork has now been laid to pave the way for enterprise use and practical business application. If you look around, there's a few constant themes. There's a confluence of, one, massive amounts of transactional and behavioral data. In fact, 90% of all data was generated over the last 2 years versus historically combined. Yet, most of this data still goes largely untapped. Two, the capacity and scale of cloud has reached so high and the cost so low, from servers to storage and beyond. This has opened the door for this abundant amount of data to be stored, analyzed in mass quantity, and even transferred. But none of that data isn't openly accessible and capable of being exchanged, leading us to once closed systems now being open, thanks to APIs, meaning that data can now be consumed and exchanged easily and quickly across programs and services. And three, we can always take a look at what consumers are already doing and how they're adopting new technology for us to consider what changes are next for the enterprise. As we all know in the business world, that when people, including your workforce and your customers, find smarter and better ways to do things, it will most certainly trickle down into their expectations of what your business must deliver to them, resulting in the fact that, like no other time before, we now have an opportunity to categorically change the way we do business. And notably, banks have an unprecedented opportunity to redefine the banking experience and reestablish what banking means for their customers, and without requiring a rip and replace effort. Just imagine what that looks like. No, people by nature can tend to be hesitant to embrace change. When the end result offers a better way of doing things, history has always proven that technological advancements win. And most people, if you look, given the choice, wouldn't carry a heavy rock up a hill today if they could use a tractor. And similarly, in the enterprise, given easier, faster, better ways of doing things, change wins. Again, the environment is primed to radically change the way we engage customers, streamline business across all touch points, and simply make it easier to get things done. And internally, if you take a look around, the landscape is very similar. Look across your organization. From sales to HR to finance and beyond, the story is similar. Employees on average juggle 30 apps, 200 emails a day, and 62 meetings a month. Despite investment, the workforce spends over half the workday, on admin system-related tasks and disruptions, as opposed to spending time with your customers and growing your business. We're currently performing between some of the work that we're doing. We're taking a look at some of the everyday system tasks that we perform in our CRM, in our service and support software, finance and ERP. The team is looking to see typically how much time, how many clicks it takes to perform one task. For example, updating an opportunity in Salesforce.com. We're calculating the number of clicks times the amount of times it takes to make one edit versus simply commanding the bot to do the same thing in a matter of a text or voice command. Now imagine per user, the time savings is significant, but even more so across an enterprise team. Imagine a world where it's easy for sales reps to enter data for management to finally get the information they need, and also easy for them to pull a report through a simple voice or text command without logging into the system of record. So ultimately, whether for growth, cost-cutting, competition, progression of general well-being, or to seize opportunity, innovation is necessary. However, it does not need to be overly complicated. We've traditionally been forced as people to learn system speak, and even systems have had to learn to speak to each other. Imagine how natural it would be, rather, for your customers, office personnel, and systems of record to be able to bridge the communication, understanding, and integration gaps through natural language to get more done faster via channels and devices people already use, which requires no learning curve. And it eliminates the manual bottlenecking tasks that eat time and money, ultimately for instant gratification all around. While so simple that we should have been doing this perhaps all along, the real opportunity for the enterprise is now. So let's take a minute to just set the baseline for what chatbots can do, realizing that we all may be at varying stages of adoption. So one, chatbots communicate with people, systems, and things via a conversational interface. People already use, know, and love speech and text. They can process commands and communicate back with users in natural language. And they can either take multiple requests from a single statement or even help a user get from point A to point B as somewhat of a guide. They can understand context, keep information in memory, and learn, either automatically or through a human. And they can become more helpful over time. Bots can complete many jobs for users. Think of anything from complex workflows to simple tasks. We typically say that bots are up for the job at hand. And they can interact whenever needed, whether by a person, a business, or a system. And that can be either proactively scheduled or on demand. So now consider this over traditional digital channels, which are great, but do have some limitations. Users typically perform the same tasks within those channels. It's a very static experience, largely dependent on their input every time. The channel doesn't necessarily learn them or provide feedback, as opposed to a situation where the bot may be living in that channel. Essentially, this technology is really designed to help people accomplish more by, one, simplifying the user interface of the apps and the communication channels that they already use. And today that's done, if you look at today's channels, it's done through a GUI, or a graphical user interface. It's very different for every app and for every device. So the solution is make that interface so natural and easy that anyone can use it, again, with no training required. 2, make the user's experience with those apps smarter and more personal and more like the human engagements we all love. Systems, if you think about it, systems really need to be more helpful, working for and with the people that use them, as opposed to the other way around. They all need to be working with other systems required to create workflows instead of forcing the user to do that themselves and intervene or requiring a separate communication tool. Just one side personal note, my husband was a late adopter of smartphones. And while his experience has been largely satisfying, I can recount several instances of his asking, why can't it do this or why can't it do that? Essentially what he was asking was why it couldn't intuitively know what he was attempting to do after he had done, a task several times. It seemed very obvious to him. This, of course, will all change once he's actively engaging via bots, and hopefully this will come as a win-win as I field fewer and fewer support requests. And really, to boil it down to its very simplest explanation, imagine a Siri-like virtual assistant at work for your customers. I know some of you are probably thinking Siri, but better, right? Yes, much of that better is dependent on what's behind the scenes, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail. Across banking, consider the practical application that having a smart assistant would offer, and the advantages of communicating simpler, faster, more conveniently. Customers could simply send a text message to instantly get balance details, or talk to you via the chat window on your homepage to report and resolve a lost debit card, or even speak to your mobile app to get their last 5 transactions. And breaking it down further, bots automate tasks. So these are the tasks that bots are able to perform, such as submitting a payment. They can send important updates, such as a suspicious transaction. They can fetch information for you, like your recent transactions or an internal sales opportunity, or they can even trigger back office workflows and more. So we believe that people do not want just more apps or more of the same IVR type of technology that's in use today. They want those channels to be satisfying, personalized, and mostly easy. We've all got a number of things that we need to get done during the day. If some of those tasks are made a little bit simpler, think of the time that gets freed up to focus on other things. And while the benefits of chatbots are vast, in summary, each offers at its core efficiency, productivity, user experience, profitability, and our competitive game-changing advantages. So let's just get into the weeds a bit by unpacking, quote unquote, the magic behind bots in just a little bit more detail. We won't get into all the technical details today, but we would be more than happy to jump on a call with you individually to walk through in detail. First of all, behind the scenes, bots make interactions more human-like through their intelligence capabilities. This is what enables them to understand, remember actions, data, and contextual details of the conversation, for more robust, rewarding conversations. Think of when you talk to people, as you're engaging in that conversation, you as a person are retaining information and you have intelligence then to be able to use that throughout the conversation. And bots can also learn from that information gathered during each interaction to be smarter. They also send right time, right fit, individualized information for your customers. So we talked a little bit ago about the lack of individualization. It's a very, one size kind of blanketed approach to a lot of the digital interactions today. In this case, customers can then immediately follow up also upon those notifications in that same thread and in that same channel. It doesn't force them to have to log into another system to complete that task. They can just finish it right there as they are in the moment. And because bots can process data at a great capacity and make insights instant and individualized, This is a great way to validate to your customers that you know them and aren't blanketing them with another one-size-fits-all attempt. And bots are always on. They can handle multiple requests at once. You can't overwhelm them. They allow your customers to engage with you in that capacity then on their timeline or as a need arises, 24/7, and just as they would with friends and family. And bots can also streamline workflows and eliminate bottlenecks by having the ability to talk to systems. This is huge. Rather than force manual input, especially in banking when in an environment where there may be M&As or legacy systems attempting to be integrated with modern technology. Having system-to-system connectivity is a huge win. And this simply can be done through system-to-system API calls performed by the bot. So that brings us to how we got here, basically why there is a need for change and why this opportunity has, like no other, the ability to change the landscapes for banks. Let's jump in a little bit and take a look at the journey some of the banks that we've worked with have undergone to date. We've been working with about 75 of the Global 2000 enterprises and about half being BFSI. As a result, together we've identified essential must-haves to help ensure success for those folks just getting started. And aside from the must-have platform component specifically, we've identified some of the components that enterprise customers require. Again, aside from adherence to regulation, user access and security, flexibility and scale, those are table stakes as far as we're concerned. Those are must-haves. But beyond that, there are strategic considerations that we feel are just as critical to consider for avoiding any bottlenecks. So for a true enterprise-grade, multi-pronged strategy versus what we're talking is maybe for a one-off or disconnected rollout, we believe it's critical to, one, consider your organization's readiness relative to your systems and your API availability, your data cleanliness, estimated timing for desired deployment against risks to delay. Need to think through who needs to be involved across the business units, and even anticipated user adoption requirements. Two, how will you quantify the business value? Now, ROI will look different for the bots that you deploy for internal efficiency gains than the bots that you deploy for your customers. By way of example, to replace an internal manual process, that's going to look a little bit different. So really getting to understanding what the cost to the business is today versus what it would be via automation by bots could simply be done by calculating the total amount of time the task takes to perform, times the number of users involved, times the number of times per day the task is performed. So consider the amount of enterprise apps and the clicks that are eliminated, along with additional support reduction because the bot is there to handle some of those functionalities. This gets a little bit more in-depth as you consider beyond that workflows where multiple systems are in play and across multiple functional areas. It gets even a little bit more complex, and we certainly have worksheets to help determine that ROI if any of you are interested in completing that exercise. And then for customer-facing, consider the cost reduction via automation over manual efforts and growth in conversion rates due to personalized, faster, more rewarding engagements. We also encourage folks to do your homework. Not all bots platforms, and AI are created equal. Like many technologies, this is a case where details do matter. We suggest that you understand the nuances to avoid rework, or even more so to avoid a poor user experience. The approach to natural language processing, for example, the intelligence engine, omni-channel approaches, the tasks that the bot can perform, the middleware, the developer tools to create the bots management, all of that matters, and it pays to assess the differences and the potential impact on your business. now is the time to ask the questions. And largely, will the platform support future growth, both internally and externally? I think the last thing that enterprises look to do is to find a solution that would potentially solve one problem, but not be something that they can grow into. So, really looking for a platform that is going to support their true enterprise goals, today and into the future. And then additionally, the process to determine the use cases, that should also be methodical as well. Indeed, there are thousands of options, but having the bot aligned to your precise business goals will ensure a rollout sooner. And as a general starting point, we encourage customers to identify, looking today at your business processes, what are the most manual, what are the most costly, the most time-consuming processes in place today? This is that low-hanging fruit that will be effective, one, for just qualifying the opportunity, two, gaining buy-in. The more painful the process, the chances of gaining buy-in are going to be much larger. And then also for seeing some quick returns. If you can fix something that's more painful, you're more apt to see quicker returns on that investment. Taking a step back, while I did say that innovation itself does not have to be overly complicated, it is worth acknowledging that we do agree with Gartner's view that successive paradigm shifts like this one won't happen overnight. There will be disruptions to businesses and to markets. It requires a significant change among providers, distributors, buyers, and users. There will be some costs that maybe perhaps folks aren't expecting, but again, when you're working with a partner, some of that information can be brought to light sooner than later. And it's no surprise that some folks in IT might have some early disdainment for new technology. And again, we've gone through this with other folks, and I think we've got some good information and resources to help you navigate some of those conversations internally. But at the heart of it, just like Gartner, we also believe that it's also unavoidable for many of the reasons that we've shared today. And I guess the question is best, how do we capitalize on this shift? And how do we do it in a way that will drive positive changes, for customers, for employees, and just businesses overall? KPMG put it rather bluntly in stating that there will be winners and there will be losers. And while that might be a bit harsh, it does give us command to consider the reality of how to do this right from the get-go. If you're making a significant move for your organization, it's best to put a plan in place. And there's a few things that we've learned along the way. Again, having hands-on experience for the last 3 years, we've worked with a number of companies. We've seen quite a bit, and from that hands-on experience, helping them strategize and plan and align with stakeholders and to test and implement, both scenarios, both successful and unsuccessful. One, I think we've determined that there are no shortcuts necessarily, but there are some simple due diligence items that you can perform to get it right from the start. So a few things that we've learned, for one, there's definitely a lot of hype in the market. This is an exciting technology, and, along with it, it's new for many people. And there's a lot of opportunity, but I think, it really determining what is hype versus what is, fact is beneficial on many fronts. And this is natural, for a new technology that folks may come out with, certain perceptions of it, and, those tend to change over time. But one of the things that we work with our clients to determine is, when you get started, one of the areas where a partner should come into play is to helping shed light on reality. Identifying what's possible today, what might be possible down the road, and what might just be hearsay. And really kind of navigating some of those discussions to know really at hand what is the opportunity. And then, leverage those successes and speed bumps that others have encountered to elicit kind of a been there, done that advantage. For example, especially in financial services, you can't assume that chatbots are secure. Asking the basics like, does it comply with federal regulations and meet strict requirements with secure bot messaging? Does it support my user authentication, built-in access controls, data retention, your e-discovery needs, and more? Is bot-based data protected using the maximum encryption protocols available for each communication channel? Those are some of the things that, as you're exploring your options, to do your due diligence that way, those are the questions that should rise to the top. And then, a lot of hype was out there early on that, oh, anyone can build a bot. And while that might be true to some degree, we do encourage for long-term success that, your developers who do, or your designers who do build bots, that they do follow a process, and that it requires the right tools and the resources to be available to support them. And obviously this goes without, even saying, is that they need to align to the business rules and business opportunities that are in place. And lastly, on the use cases, like I mentioned earlier, there truly are endless possibilities, but randomly picking where to start is probably not the best route. We do encourage folks to do the upfront work to truly align to the business needs. So with that, let's jump in and let's take a look at some of what we call kind of the out-of-the-box basic tasks, or the basic use cases that are possible in banking. So many of the everyday tasks that you would expect, making sure that the bot is capable to do that. Now, not all solutions or platforms or frameworks even come with these out of the box. So make sure your expectations align with what's reality. So this is again, the customers that we're working with, many of them are looking to employ these standard sets of banking tasks. So things like transferring money to third-party accounts or person-to-person, making a remote check deposit, redeeming rewards, paying bills, receiving credit card recommendations, finding an ATM, reporting a lost or stolen card, or even stopping a payment of a check. So these are the things, and matter of fact, these do come standard with our SmartBot for banking. And from there, so you could potentially use this out of the gates, or you could further customize depending on what your particular needs are. So these are some of the tasks that our customers are looking for today. And then, so visually played out, this is how, a customer could engage with you. So for example, your customers could ask the bot to perform those everyday transactions that typically they would log into your app, or maybe place a call to perform on their own. And since messaging is the most popular form of communication on the planet, you can further harness the popularity of it and the ease of this channel by putting your chatbot in SMS, for example, and storing that bot as an individual contact with its number for your users. So if I am a customer of your bank, I could simply engage that bot through SMS. I could send it a text message, to increase my car payment, or to get status on an account, and so on and so forth. So users can basically send a text message to your bot and get engaged just as they would a family member or a friend, to get their task completed. Again, quickly, naturally, and using natural language, or what we call conversational. You can also tap bots to elevate the investments you've made in your website. So whether that's customer-facing or perhaps even an internal portal, best-in-class SDKs and special widgets will let you combine conversational chats with elements of a graphical user interface, so not completely getting rid of that graphical interface when it does make sense, really yielding the best experience for that particular channel. And you can place bots within Facebook Messenger's app. This lets you then obviously market via your bot to 1 billion+ users and leverage all of Messenger's native interface conveniences. And really, to beat a dead horse here, users are already accustomed to using that UI. So on day one, there's really zero learning curve. So if you think, across channels, again, whether that's Messenger, SMS, mobile, website, your app, it's taking on the interface of that particular channel, making it much more of a natural experience for your users. So beyond these typical tasks, let's dig into a little bit of what some of our customers have identified as practical use cases for their organizations. With this particular customer, we are working with a commercial bank to resolve time-consuming manual processes that affect customers and staff alike. And here's what they told us. They said, our highly talented professionals are fielding too much of the same day in, day out requests. Our customers don't always define personal service with a live agent. We need a better way to solve for those who want to self-serve. For this bank, typically customer requests that come in via email were mixed in to the heap of emails that flood the bank's inbox on any given day. The admin would typically scan for the matters that needed resolution, and of course, according to his or her availability, and begin then the manual process to resolve. Now, via the bot, what this customer is looking to do is to have instant resolution via the bot monitoring the inbox 24/7, systematizing the process, and also freeing staff from these repetitive, time-consuming tasks. The bot would simply extract a check number from the email, confirm with the customer in that same channel that they engaged in, and the bot would add the check number to the queue for admin approval, and ultimately notify the customer once complete. So kind of a full closed-loop workflow that the bot is now able to facilitate 24/7. And that same bot can, of course, live on the website, can live in the mobile app, it can live in SMS and text like we talked about. Our philosophy is you build the bot once and deploy that bot to your preferred channels. This is how you can truly scale for an omni-channel strategy. Obviously, this gives you advantages over traditional solutions where you were required to build your strategy per channel. Again, we believe in building it once and deploying too many. From a rollout to management, obviously this offers a number of advantages. For the next customer, in this example, we are working with a retail bank via, this was an on-prem delivery, to resolve customer loyalty concerns. Here's what they told us. We have to infuse innovation and apply agile operational models wherever possible to retain customers and attract younger generations. Now, with this client historically, they indicated that they faced challenges with missing opportunities to capture and retain new clients due to just not getting to them instantly and really giving them a window to leave. They shared that their self-service was lacking. Some of their delivery was not up to the standards that they had wanted. And it was just overall hard to use. It required training. So what they're looking to do is they are looking to use the bots to serve new customers and to increase satisfaction and adoption by supporting them in the channel that those customers come in through and prefer. And one other idea that the bank is looking to do is possibly employ a survey bot to further monitor ongoing satisfaction levels. And lastly, the third example, we are working with a retail bank to act as to have the bot act as their welcome bot and enhance their delivery methods. And here's what they told us. It's pretty simple. Getting back to basics while uncovering gains in today's digital age is a win-win. And in this scenario, by default, the customer wants the bot to be available to provide personalized greetings and assist with general banking tasks, like we talked about earlier, the new account setup, updating the user profile, transferring money, whether that's personal or third party, recurring payments, loyalty program rewards and redemption, lost or stolen card resolution. But beyond this, what they are looking to do is to incorporate live agent handoff. And what this gives customers then is the ability to choose when they prefer to talk to a human agent, or if the user is exhibiting frustration, for example, the bot can use something that we call sentiment analysis to analyze each conversation for exhibited emotions that really require, an appropriate handoff. So, as I mentioned early on, I hope that you walk away with some ideas to get started, some practical tips to consider, and more importantly, a good picture of the game-changing opportunity you all have for your FIs. Obviously this requires much further discussions. We love working with folks like you to explore what's possible. We'd be honored to partner with you as you embark on your journey. Like I said, we've spent the last 3 years preparing our platform and our approach to make it easy for you to focus on what you do, serving customers, growing your business. We know not all of you are focused solely on technology, which is why we've put the tools in place for you. We've gone to great lengths to make sure that our team has done the heavy lifting to ensure that you go to market quicker and with the real experience that users expect. Enterprise customers are all we know. It's the sole focus of our efforts. And ultimately, when you're ready, we hope that you think of us. And, with that, we've got a number of practical resources to make it easy for you to get started, anywhere from rolling out to developing a complete strategy. And for next steps, I think, there's a little bit of a format that we recommend. Probably the quickest thing to do is to check out Kore.ai. Whether you're early in your discovery, we have, tools like Bots 101 ebooks, take in kind of the opportunity at hand. We have use case ebooks, so maybe things that you haven't considered. We've been at a number of shows over the last year, and the conversations with folks like yourselves is very similar in that, folks might have an idea that they want a bot to maybe live in an FAQ. And then, as you start to unpack the opportunity, there's all kinds of things that are possible that, are really brought to light. So, exploring some of those opportunities and seeing what is possible, or whether you might be already developing your strategy or perhaps you're rolling out. We do have planning tools to help you expedite that as well. So more importantly, I'd say, let's continue the conversation. We'd love to help you evaluate your unique business model and put a full plan in place. We'll get ready here to open up the floor for a few questions. But as I wrap up, I would say I encourage you to remember a few important details beyond understanding just the opportunity. Again, we touched on this, but, it's really important to involve the right people to help you define your game plan. One constant that we're seeing is that the customers we see who are most successful have identified these individuals up front. And that typically looks like an executive sponsor, a business process lead, a security expert, an application developer, and a brand expert. This is an opportunity where, with the right people aligned, your chances of ensuring a successful rollout just, exponentially go up higher. And two, it's really, really important, again, whether you work with us or not, we highly encourage you to evaluate solutions. Again, we hope that you think of us when you're ready to embark, and look to us to help you identify, how to select a partner that will align to your business goals. Understanding the differences and the impact that simple services or frameworks might have. There might be costs associated that might not come in until later, or additional services that you have to solicit from other vendors, or limitations in what you're really looking for the technology to do. Those are the things that matter. And understand what truly a complete end-to-end platform offers you, not just for a single bot rollout, but potentially for the lifecycle management of your bots. And likely, if you're enterprise, you're going to have more than one bot. You certainly want, a platform in order to manage those versus disparate one-off rollouts. you know, in your line of work, and I'd say in many other areas like healthcare too, you know, what is a risk, the revenue impact of security or compliance missteps? Those are critical. To, you know, really understand what your omni-channel strategy is. You know, what channels do you want to serve in, and how, you know, how do you go about making that manageable? You know, I think in banking, omni-channel has been kind of thrown around for the last few years, and I think it's somewhat underperformed because of the level of difficulty in some of the traditional methods of doing that. But I think bots really offer new opportunities to make omni-channel much simpler. You know, and to really use bots to elevate those channels. We're not necessarily suggesting that you get rid of any of your channels, but bots really just bring those channels to life and make it much more engaging for folks to interact with, and in a much more natural format. And then, you know, again, the cost and time considerations of each component to deploy versus, say, an all-in-one solution. You know, again, it takes a little bit of homework. We're here, we're happy to help uncover some of that. And with that, I'd like to just say thank you, you know, for your time today. I'd say, Alicia, let's take 3 to 4 questions to make sure that, you know, we end the session a bit before the top of the hour for the folks that might have a call after this. So, Alicia, would you like to open the floor?
Absolutely, Tara. I have a couple questions here, so I'll go ahead and jump right in the interest of time. The first question we received was, does any of the NLP and intelligence technology you use come from outside vendors, or are they components Kore.ai developed?
Yes, so I am glad you asked that question because we have heard this several times, and it really gets to the heart of where, you know, how we separate our platform from other services. Again, this would be a discussion that would warrant much more time, but kind of at the heart of it, the natural language processing engine, the intelligence capabilities of our platform, which include, you know, the bot builder and the dialogue tool, which are, you know, the components that you use to build your bots. Those are Kore.ai's components. Our engineering team has created that functionality. And again, that all goes back to, you know, really making it easier for you, your businesses, to create, you know, fully functioning bots at the end of the day versus having to, let's say, cobble together components from a third party. You know, it makes it much more easier to roll out and to then scale from that position. Also our NLP engine, this is significant, includes a dual prong approach. A lot of folks out there are using a machine learning only approach, and while, you know, machine learning is great, there are some limitations. It takes a lot of training, upfront training, to get that bot to fully function. Whereas, you know, we've got machine learning as part of the process, but we also back that up with what we call a fundamental meaning approach. And so with fundamental meaning, the bot is much, you know, more equipped to pick up on the possible intent of what a person is attempting to say. So if you think possibly as a user of Siri, you know, if you don't state the request specifically how the bot understands, it'll fail. So we've developed a way to include fundamental meaning. So for example, if I ask, show me my account versus I need the account details, there are variations then that the bot can understand and make it much more highly functional out of the gates. So yes, our technology is proprietary to us, and that gives us a lot more control and flexibility that we can pass on to our customers.
Great, thank you, Tara. So our second question is, we already have a mobile app that's got good popularity with our customers. My worry is adding in a new experience will confuse our customers and possibly detract from our app use. What is your take on navigating that transition?
Yes, I would say another common and valid concern that we've heard. I think our take on it is not, you know, we would say don't view the chatbot as a competing technology. It's not another channel per se. It's really meant to, like I said, kind of give a facelift to the channel today. You know, it's not meant to replace your app. It's meant to elevate it. So, for example, folks might engage with your mobile app today. They would typically log in, perform, standard requests or tasks, and they would have to follow or navigate that interface. Personally, myself, as a banking customer, I do this just about every day. I've got a couple banking apps. I've got my credit card app, and each time I go in, I have to perform those same tasks. The technology doesn't learn me. I can't engage with it as I would, as simply or easily as a friend or a colleague. So what the bot does then is, by living in that channel, it just makes that channel a little bit more natural to engage with. So I can then ask the bot through that channel to perhaps, send me my account balance or make a payment, pay a bill, et cetera. And you have to think of your audience too. Not everyone is comfortable using an app, but most people, I would say, are comfortable, or at least more people are comfortable using text. So, just giving them those options, for them to choose versus, making the choice for them, I would say.
Great, thanks, Tara. So we have, we're just going to take 2 more questions and then wrap up. We've heard a lot about the customer experience today, but what about compliance and security? Can you give a rundown of those features?
Yes, I'm not sure that the amount of time left today will cover all of the details, but yeah, so obviously, again, we're built for the enterprise. And we wouldn't be in business today if we, hadn't considered compliance and security, or at least we wouldn't be doing business well. So we know, obviously, behind your customers, there's probably a huge security concern. Our platform is SOC 2 certified. Our cloud services are hosted with AWS, which includes all of Amazon's compliance standards. Data is encrypted, and this is important both in transit and at rest. And the platform provides several authentication options that can be configured at the bot level, user level, or even task-by-task basis. So folks have options to fit their business model. Like I said, that's really just scratching the surface, and I think to go any deeper would require an offline conversation.
Great. Thanks, Tara. So I'm going to throw out one last question, and then we'll wrap up. The last question is, how is your platform different from your competition?
Yes. Again, another very in-depth discussion, and we're always, thrilled to be able to share, how we're different. We take great pride in being different. But just a couple things that kind of rise to the top would be, if you look at a lot of vendors today, they've got pre-built tasks. They can be limited in use case and scale. They could require specialized implementations, or even a lot of coding. So, at Kore.ai, we don't believe in coding. Again, we've done the legwork to make it much more simple for you to roll out bots. We've got multiple task types. We do have customization ability, so if you do want to fully customize, that's perfectly fine. We've got more secure channel integrations than other competitors, and that's important because when you look to roll out that omni-channel strategy, that's going to be key, making sure that each of those channels align to your compliance requirements and security. And, again, I touched on this earlier. You build a bot once on our platform and you deploy across channels, significant time savings in that. And really, when you think about it, our platform is built to reuse. So, as you build those tasks or bots, you can simply duplicate and then just tailor for other uses going forward. So there's a lot of scale and benefits to doing it that way.
Great. Thank you, Tara. So that concludes our webinar today. If you have any questions going forward, please direct them to us. You can reach us on Twitter, on our website, as well as our other social media channels. We also encourage you to visit Kore.ai to gain additional resources to make it easy for you to align practical application and help your enterprise embrace intelligent conversational technology. So thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day.